During film school, I decided to write my bachelor's thesis on the depiction of migrants in German media. To do this, I had to analyze a few German movies and TV shows, but among them, there was really only one film that I not only liked, but thought had a relatively good depiction of migrants in German society. That film being Fassbender's Ali Fear Eats the Soul. Made in the 70s in West Germany, the film follows the relationship of a 60-year-old widowed German woman and her new partner, a Moroccan worker in his 30s. Directed by Rainer Werner Fassbender, a notorious workaholic, alcoholic, and controversial figure to this day, the production of Fear Eats the Soul and the lives of its actors can serve as a tragic microcosm representing his entire career. Born only weeks after the surrender of Germany in the Second World War, Fassbender grew up in a post-war West Germany, with parents that didn't seem very interested in him. Although he was never that good in school, he started studying drama when he was 18, produced, directed, and acted in a few plays and short films, and never really slowed down from there. He would get some of his earliest works funded by his partner at the time, only to build up relationships with other actors and move on from there. In 1967, he joined a theater group and directed 12 plays, having written several of them in only a year and a half. Not even the theater closing down could get him to slow his pace, and soon he and an ever-rotating train of actors that he would frequently collaborate with, which would later be dubbed the Fassbender Clan, all lived together, working and writing at a non-stop pace. It wouldn't take long for Fassbender to jump into film. In the next 15 years, Fassbender made 44 films and miniseries as well as directed numerous stage performances. Focusing mostly on outsiders of society, the characters and the plots of his films varied from project to project. Gangsters and love triangles, a fashion designer who becomes obsessed with an admirer, a poor gay man who is taken advantage of by an industrialist, and singers who make it big in Nazi Germany. Although most of his films were about outsiders of society and their struggles, Fassbender himself was not known for being the greatest of guys. On top of his alcoholism and drug use, Fassbender, despite being bisexual himself, had been accused of both sexism and homophobia. At least one of his partners had accused him of beating her almost to death in the street, and that he couldn't ever conceive of her telling him no. In another instance, Fassbender became obsessed with one of his co-stars, despite the man already having a wife and kids, and tried to buy his affection with cars and lead roles in his movies. A year after Fassbender got married, he started another relationship with El Khedi Ben Salem, a Moroccan migrant who had just recently arrived in Germany. Ben Salem had left his family behind in Morocco, his two teenage sons and his wife, who he was married to when he was just 15 years old. Fassbender and Ben Salem quickly fell in love, and under pressure from Fassbender, Ben Salem moved his two sons to live with them in Germany. Now, this quickly ended in disaster because neither of these men were capable of or seemingly interested in raising kids. Not only did Ben Salem's kids not really know German, but both Fassbender and he were alcoholics, habitual drug users, and violent towards one another. Because of this, his two sons didn't stay with him for long, one of them fleeing back to Morocco and the other living in the homes of Fassbender's friends before eventually ending up in a youth detention facility. Despite their tumultuous relationship, Ben Salem acted in many of Fassbender's films, the most famous of which undoubtedly being Ali Fear Eats the Soul. In the film, Ben Salem portrays the titular Ali, although there is a moment where he tells someone his real name, but that no one calls him that, so now he's just Ali. In the film, Ali asks a lonely 60-year-old woman to dance at a bar. The two enjoy each other's company, and Ali ends up spending the night at her apartment. Over time, they get closer and closer to one another and eventually end up marrying. But their marriage isn't accepted by society. The woman's kids are furious that she's married an immigrant and tells her apartment looks like a pigsty since he's moved in. The neighbors watch and make fun of them when they walk by, and the shopkeepers in the area pretend not to understand Ali's German and refuse to serve them. They both reflect on the fact that without the world and society's expectations around them, they could just focus on each other, and that would make more sense. Soon, wanting to get her old life and friends back, the woman starts talking negatively about Ali as well, allowing her friends to grope him and marvel at how clean he is for an immigrant. The two break up shortly after, only to reunite once again, lonely and single, at the same bar where they had first met. As they dance together one last time, Ali falls over in pain and is taken to a hospital. The doctor tells them that it's a stomach ulcer, a common affliction of migrant workers because of the stress of their lives, and that while they can remove it with surgery, Ali will probably be back in a few months with another one. The film fades to black with the woman holding Ali's hand. The film itself was completed in only 2 weeks of shooting, with Fassbender referring to it as an exercise in filmmaking between other projects. Despite this, the film gained a lot of attention internationally and made Fassbender famous outside of West Germany. When I first watched this movie a few months ago for my bachelor's thesis, I really enjoyed its depiction of the relationship between the two main characters and how their lives in the community begins to break because these two people, separated by race, class, and age, are not supposed to interact with each other. The film shines a light on racism and xenophobia in West German society and analyzes its two main characters' relationships to this society, but doesn't give a solution to their problems. Instead, we're just left with their sad reality. El-Khadi Ben Salem wasn't the only lead actor with a controversial story, however. His co-star, Brigitte Mira, had formerly starred in Nazi propaganda films, despite being Jewish herself. Her character in this movie is also randomly a Nazi sympathizer, which is kind of weird. Despite this, the movie has gone on to be ranked multiple times in the top 100 films of all time. Although the film's legacy lasts until this day, the same cannot be said for Fassbender and Ben Salem's relationship. Shortly after the film's release, the couple split up and Ben Salem, in a drunken rage, went to Berlin and stabbed 3 people. Fassbender and some friends came together to help smuggle him over the border to France, where the two said goodbye for the last time. Shortly after this, Ben Salem was captured by the police and committed suicide in his cell. Fassbender wouldn't find out about this until shortly before his own death 5 years later, and his very last film was dedicated to him. Fassbender himself was found dead at the age of 37 of a cocaine overdose in front of his TV, a cigarette in his mouth, and the unfinished notes for his next film beside him. Both Rainer Werner Fassbender and El-Khadi Ben Salem lived chaotic and destructive lives, for themselves and for many of the people close to them. Despite this and the crazy circumstances under which they lived and made films, they came together to create one of the greatest German movies of all time, something that unglamorously depicted and criticized the society that had produced them.